Alright, work package 14, TM538052610. Engine air pre-cleaner, air cleaner assembly servicing. The work package covers the engine air pre-cleaner inspection, engine air cleaner assembly servicing, initial setup, the materials, deterge, rag wiping, and equipment and condition engine off. Warning: if nuclear, biological, chemical exposure, suspected person wearing protective equipment should handle with all cleaner air media. The consult with the NBC offer the NBC non-commissioned offer the appropriate of the handling the disposal procedure. The NBC contaminated filters must be handled using adequate precautions must be disposed of the trained personnel. Failure to follow these warnings may result in the injury or death of personnel. Cautions: everything in the engine cleaner, air cleaner, assembly will the engine stop. The engine could be resolved. With the engine stopped, the engine could result in service performed with the engine running, and the air cleaner inspection note that do not clean the pre-cleaner with the air pressure. Check the pre-cleaner for the debris of the damage. If the pre-cleaner shows the sign of the damage of the full debris, notify the unit maintenance. Alright, engine air cleaner assembly servicing, loosen the two eye bolts, remove the cover, inspect the cover to seal, then if the damage is notify the unit maintenance to obtain the replacement and cover and seal. The eye bolts and the air cleaner cover, they're shown on the picture. 3. Remove the primary element of the air cleaner housing, notify the unit maintenance to replace the secondary element of the third party element for replacement. Inspect the secondary element, notify the unit maintenance if damage and the primary element have been replaced for the third time. Wipe inside of the air cleaner with the housing clean with a rag. Caution: do not use the damaged primary element. Engine damage can result in the primary element. If the pleats are sealed, the damage will discard the primary element. Engine air cleaner assembly continued. Note the primary element must be cleaned with a maximum of 6 times. Also, the replacement of the primary element has been in service for 1 year. The primary element, secondary element, air cleaning housing. Primary element is clean its valve with the compressed air with the use of the cleaning purpose should not exceed 30 psi. The pressurized water used for the cleaning purpose does not exceed 40 psi. With protective wear, gloves, goggles, shields, gloves, etc. Will use the caution to avoid injury with the personnel. Note: do not clean primary element, the tapping, the bumping, the element. Use the compression air. Use compressed air with pressurized water, clean inside with the outside of the plates with the direct stream along with the plates. Also, a solution detergent water must be as required full rinse of the plates. Allow the primary element to be air dry completely. Inspect the primary element. If the plates and seals are damaged, discard the primary element to obtain the replacement. Engine air cleaner assembly continued. Note: primary element must be cleaned but dry before installation. Install the primary element inside the air cleaner housing. Primary element, secondary element, air cleaner housing. Clean the cover and install the toilet. Tighten the two eye bolts to secure the cover. Your eye bolts and your air cleaner cover. Air cleaner assembly continued. Can be reset the air filter surface indicator, pushing on the bottom of the indicator air filter surface indicator. Start the engine if the air filter surface indicator shows green or yellow. Surface is complete. If the indicator shows red, if the engine exhaust open and the oak is black, notify the unit maintenance. End of work package. Alright, fuse replacement. The work product of the package covered the removal of the insulation, initial setup of the fuse, the equipment condition machine marked on level of the ground, equipment condition of the continued machine parked on level of the ground, parking and emergency brake applied, implements lowered to the ground, battery disconnection switch in the opposition. Warning: ensure the battery disconnection switch is in opposition before working in the fuse panel. Failure to follow this warning may result in the injury. Open the fuse panel, cover the note with the visual check all the fuses, replace the fuse if any of the following: discolored glass tube, the broken filament, broken reactor glass tube. Remove the fuse from the fuse box, contain the unit manual for the replacement of the fuse. Show the fuse box. Okay. Caution: always vary amperage rating of the new fuse. If it is correctly used the fuse with the wrong amperage could result in the damage to the electrical system. Install the new fuse with the fuse box. Close the fuel box panel. Turn the battery disconnect switch on and operating the electrical switch relay of the new fuse the very correct operation. And then fuse fails again, notify the unit maintenance number. Your fuse chart shows the spare supplemental steering turn signal, the cushion blade, the dozer float, the blade float, the spare beacon, spare horn, backup alarm, diff lock, hours meter, operator's panel, stopping lights, rear flood, and blade lights. Your fuse chart for the 130 GCCE model. 1. Fuse 1 is a 4 slow blow front wiper. 2. The fuse is 15 amperes heater and air conditioner. 3 is a 10 beacon component. Item 4, fuse 4 is a 10 ampere fan rear. Item 5 is a 5 ampere dome light. Item 6 is fuse number 6 is a 4 slow blow rear wiper component. 7 is a 15 ampere lighter, and 8 is a blank spare ampere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from the left. Alright, tire maintenance. The work package for the tire pressure adjustment. The initial setup of the tools and special tools. Gauge the tire pressure, horn assembly, hose assembly, pneumatic, the tire inflation, machine parking on level game, parking emergency brake, implements lowered to the ground, brake, and battery disconnection switch on the opposition engine with a high idle. Alright, warning. Operating the machine under an inflated deflective tire may with the tire failure with the loss of control failure to follow this warning may cause the injury to personal damage of the equipment. If the tire pressure is 0 psi, do not inflate. Notify the unit's maintenance. If the failure to follow this warning may cause the injury to death of personnel. Use self-inflating chuck with sand by the tread side with the tire maximum distance allowed with the inflation of the hose. Failure to follow this warning may cause the injury to death of personnel. No, the tire inflated and closed the shop air within 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit will be under the inflated machine is moved into and if the machine is moved into unfreezing temperature. Inspect the tire for damage, foreign material, and tread, and notify the unit's maintenance if the tire is damaged. Alright, tire pressure adjustment. Show the valve stem adjustment. Remove the valve stem cap to check the tire pressure for the tire pressure gauge. Correct the pressure of the 35 psi for all tires for the 130 GH. Test the air check for the valve stem. Stand at the tread side of the tire maximum distance allowed with the inflation hose. Open the valve slowly to increase the air pressure for the tire. Check the tire pressure periodically to ensure the tire is not underinflated. If necessary, to reduce the air pressure, disconnect the air chuck. Press the valve stem cord to the vent air from the tire. Disconnect the air chuck from the valve stem. Install the valve stem cap. End of the work package. General, check the regulation covering the transportation of the cylinder containing with the compressed air. Check if the travel over the overpass clearance. Make sure that there will adequate clearance of the roll over protected structure for the observable laws of the width, weight, and hauling permits. For detailed information, machine transportation transporting refer to TM 553805 26114. For measurement rigging the machine with the transportation field menu 10453. 10454 for sexualization air transportation work package 018 and 019. Alright, sexualization air transportation work package 18. Introduction. The total amount of the 130 GTF2, 130 GS, and 130 GSEE. They can be sexualized transported transported by helicopter. The machines are equipped with all special tools for the equipment needed for the sexualization. Remove control box, stored with the frame forward with the operating control of the rear section of the axe sexualization. The work package has general information sexualization procedure. Due to size, weight, restriction of the grader must be sexualized separated with the accomplish of the air transportation helicopter, but one separated with each half of the rigid separately and lifted by the helicopter. Work package 19 describes how to prepare the grader with the air transportation, how to drive the rear section with the grader, how to return the machine with the operational configuration after the transportation, amount of fuel left in machine fuel tank must comply with the guidance of the Military Traffic Management Command or MTMC. Assistance with the unit maintenance for the mechanics may require with the repair of the machine for the air transportation. Warning, if the operating machine with a rollover protective structure drive with extreme cost and low idle in first gear only, the machine has no rollover protection with the ROP with rollover protection system. Failure to follow the warning may cause the injury or death of personnel with damage of the equipment. 6. As the part of the rollover protection structure from the grader, the operating machine assembly at the work may require the rollover protection surface until the rollover protection surface transported work site is reinstalled. Warning, at extreme cost for the handling of heavy parts, provide adequate support with assistance during this procedure, ensuring a lifting device will use for the good condition, suitable lifting capacity, clear the heavy part for the support of the lifting device. Failure to follow the warnings may result in the injury, death of the personnel. 7. Many components that may be removed and installed with the procedure are very heavy to use. The assistance caution following the safety practices when hauling. Articulation movement that can be reduced with clearance suddenly cause injury. All stopping engine before the working area of the thick hitch link. Their thoroughly procedure be aware of the potential hazard when working around the hitch. Do not work in an area with a hitch link unless the engine is shut down. Tools and equipment. The tools and equipment required in section of the store stored in the toolbox located in the front of the machine. The basic item tools must also be used with the following table of contents where sizes must need to complete the sectional procedure. You have your pump shaft, drive shaft guard bolts, wrench size 9/16, 3/16, to pump drive shaft bolts 9/16, 9/16, upper articulation pin or out bolts 3/4, lower articulation pin and cap bolts 15/16, lower articulation pin out bolts, lower articulation pin retainer bolts, and articulation pin or bushing bolts at 3/4 of an inch, articulation cylinder pin cap bolt and front frame cable clamp bolt 9/16 of an inch, remote control box storage attached pump bolts 6.5 inches, solid tandem link bolts at 9/16 of an inch, push pull cable nuts 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, 15/6 inch, and 1 inch bolt eyes bolts not recommended. End of work package. Our work package 19 sectionalization for the instrument air transportation. The worker package is disassembled the drive with the rear of the frame. The assembly tool with the specialty component with the ending of the item, basic items issue, rag wiping, tag, marking, pin, cotter, personnel tube, for equipment, machine with the type of parked on level of the ground, parking emergency brake, apply to implementation load, and then it's lowered to the ground, engine off, battery disconnection switch in the opposition. Note. Assistance from the unit maintenance personnel required with these procedures. Disassemble must be performed at the firm and the level of service. When performing the return of the hardware clamp of the bolts with the hole from which they were removed. Be sure they tighten enough so they will not loosen from vibration. Notify unit maintenance to remove the rollover protection structure from the machine. Notify the unit maintenance to move the two supports for the front machine to rear support brackets for the rear machine. Install the 6 rollover protective surfaces bolts bushings on the bottom support. Start the engine center blade and the shaft shift cylinders. Position the blade 90 degrees at the angle of the very lower the blade to the ground. Apply the slight downward pressure to reduce the front weight of the articulation joint and shut down the engine. 7-3 bolts. Remove the 3 bolts, 1 washer, 2 of the top hydraulic drive shaft guard 3. Remove the 4 bolts, washers, and 2 hydraulic pump drive shaft guards 3. Remove the 8 bolts, 6 of the hydraulic pump shaft, the U-bolt joints, 4 bolts on each end. Remove the hydraulic pump drive shaft 7, the U joints 8 in assembly. Remove the 4 outer bolts, not 10 washers 11 in the top upper pivot pin 9. Can install the pump drive shaft lock on the lock bar on the pump choke with the 2 drive shaft. Be sure of the free end with the locking bar pointing toward the right side of the machine. Lock bar will prevent from rotation. Remove the 2 bolts of the 12, washer 13, nuts 15, and washer 16. Retainer caps 14 from the left actuating cylinder 17. Okay. Remove the 4 bolts, 18 washers, 19 with the 2 retainer caps, 20 for the right facilitating cylinder. Remove the 3 bolts to the 22 washer, 23 and cap, 24 for the bottom lower pivot cylinder. Pivot pin. This assembly continued. Loosen the 6 retainer blocks on the bottom of the lower pivot pin, 26 for that about 1/2 inch. This assembly continued. Do not disconnect or remove the hydraulic system. I hope the fitting and left the engine shut down. The hydraulic system pressure has been relieved. Tighten all the connection for the air. Apply the pressure escaping the hydraulic pressure for the under the pressure penetrate with the skin cause the injury to personnel. All operating hydraulic oil is hot. All hydraulic oil cooling before and during disconnecting any hydraulic hose. Failure to following this may cause injury to personnel. Caution, I keep the hydraulic air hose connector clean. Do not allow the dirt or the contamination for the intent of the fillings. Note that tag the hoses before disconnecting the aid of the installation. Disconnect the 3 hydraulic hoses 27 to 28 and 29 to the 2 air hoses 30 and 31 from the left side of the machine. Remove the dirt with the dust cover and install the on connectors. Disconnect the hydraulic hose 32 with the air hose at 33, 34, and 35 on the right side of the machine. Remove the dirt from the dust cover and install the connectors. Note the following step of the left side. Repeat the step of the right side. Remove the 2 nuts for 36 of the washer, 37 of the clamp, 38 with the left side of the frame. This assembly continued. Note the disconnecting of the cable to move with appropriate the control lever of the operator of the compartment of the knee with the own aid of the disconnect with the tag cable to assessing the connection with the remote control box when returning to the normal configuration. Disconnect the throttle cable on the right side of the machine. Install the dust covers. Disconnect the forward reverse cable forward on the right side of the machine and then dust cover to take the both ends of the cable forward and reverse. Disconnect the gear section with the control cable 41 on the right side of the machine. Install the dust cover to both ends of the cable with the gear selection. No, the cables exist for connecting the remote control box from the remoting and returning the normal configuration. To disconnect the control clutch cable with the 42 on the left side of the machine, install the dust cover and tag the both ends of the clutch. 26. Disconnect the 3 wiring harnesses 43, 44, and 45. Install the dust covers all the connections. Remove the bolt 46 and washers 47. Then with the clamp 48 with a holding the control cable below the operator compartment. 28. Remove the control cable from the clamp 48 and install the clamp 48 with the washer 47 and the bolt 46 in the original location. This assembly continued. Pull the hose and the cable of the wiring harness from the platform support with the both side of the machine. Warning, wire eye protection when disconnecting the hydraulic hose. Failure to follow the wiring may cover the injury to the personnel slightly. Loosen the 2 hose fittings 49 and check valve 50. Relieve pressure to tighten those 2 hosing fittings 49 and check the valve 50. Note the following step on the left side. Repeat the step on the right side of the machine. Disconnect the 2 hose 51 with the left articulation cylinder 52 with the install the dust cover the connectors. Remove the 2 cotter pins 55 and the cotter pins and pins 53 with the both end with the articulation indicating connector rod 54. To discard the cotter pins. Place articulating indicator connection rod 54 with the plane 53 in the front of the tool of the bottom machine. Carefully remove the hitch retainer and force retainer with the cover of the damaged shim with the lower hitch of the retainer. Remove the 6 bolts 25 of the retainer 26 with the shims attached to the bottom of the lower pivot pin 26. Disconnect the jumper hose 58 with the auxiliary pump supply 27 on the left side of the machine. Connect the other end of the jumper hose and 58 to the auxiliary power supply connector 57. Connect the jumper hose 60 to the auxiliary pump return hose 32 on the right side of the machine. Connect the other end of the jumper hose 60 to the tank hose connector 59. Disassembly. Connect electrical jumper harness between the engine connector 62 and platform 61. Place the 2 screw jacks over the mounting hole. 33 over the mounting bolts on the inside of the rear of the frame tandem housing. Install 2-pin 64 spring clamps 65 through the mounting holes on each screw in 63. Disassembly continued of the sectionalization air transportation. 44. Disconnect the rear electrical harness to pull through the frame under the under upper compartment. Secure the harness machine. Carefully remove the articulation cylinder points to avoid damage to the bushing and cylinder ends. 50-45. Remove the articulation cylinder 66 from the inside of the machine. Disassembly continued. Do not turn on the auxiliary pump for more than 30 seconds. Allow the pump to cool for 1 minute before each of the use. Note, to relieve the load of the hitch, turn the battery disconnection switch, then on the auxiliary pump switch, and then adjust the blade height. And it is also necessary to adjust the screw jack, turn off the battery disconnection switch, remove the 6 bolts, 68 washer, 69 outer circle for the top of the lower pivot pin 26. Install the 2 pusher bolts in the top lower pivot 26. Tighten the 2 pusher bolts alternately. Remove the lower pivot pin 26. Remove the 2 pusher bolts. 50. Install the 2 pusher bolts on the top upper pivot pin for 9. Tighten the pusher bolts alternately. Remove the upper pivot pin 9. Remove the 2 pusher bolts. Alright, disassembly continued. Warning. Extreme caution with the handling of the heavy parts. Provide adequate support for the use of the system. This proceed with the following of this warning may result in the injury of personnel. No, remote control block weighs 68 pounds. Remove the 2 nuts from the 70 and bolts 71 with the remote control box. With the assistant, remove the remote control box from the machine. With the assistant, all the remote control box and the bracket near the left-hand battery box. Remove the 2 bolts and cover the 74 from the remote control box 72. 57. Remove the dust cover from the cable and hose. Connect the remote control hose and the wiring harnesses 75 to the machine. Alright, note, to aid the clutch cable connection, press the button with the remote control button, box clutch with the control to allow the cable to move freely. Connect the remote control cable to the machine cable to tell you if the tag added during the removal to turn on the battery disconnect switch to the starting engine. C. Driving the rear of the frame working package warning. Keep all the personnel away from the machine when separating the front and rear section. The front section drop with a few inches if there is not enough blade down pressure. Apply slightly amount of blade down pressure. Drive the rear frame slowly about 3 feet away from the front section. Guide the jumper hose carefully to prevent damage. C. The driving the rear frame with the work package. Disconnect the electrical jumper cable to 2 jumper hoses connecting the front end of the rear section. Install the gust caps on the hose end. Install the upper pivot pin 9, bolt 10, washer 11 the front frame. Tighten bolts to the secure pin. Install the lower pivot pin 26, bolt 68, and washer 69 with the rear frame. To tighten the bolts with enough to secure the pin. Install the retainer 56 and bolts 25 on the lower pivot pin 26. Install the shield 77 and the 3 clip 78 on the rear section. Secure the hose with the cable to the tandem, the strap articulation of the rear frame. 70. Secure the hose and the cable to the front section. Secure the lower pivot bushing with the front frame with install the position. Move the 2 bolts 70 and washers 80 with the cap 81 to each of the tandem link amount 82. Then install the tandem link on each of the end of the rear frame. Adjust the screws necessary to engage the tandem links. Install the cap 81 2 washers 80 and bolts 79 on the each tandem link of the mount 82. Remove the screw jacks to the store in the toolbox. Disassembly continued. Note, at this point, the rear frame can be driven to an airlift sling location. Before the sling is perceived with the remaining disassembly steps. Disconnect the remote control hose 76, the wire harnesses 75 from the machine. Install the dust plugs on all connections. Disconnect the 3 remote control cable to 40, 41, and 42 for the machine cables. Install the dust guard 79. Remove the 2 bolts, pump the drive shaft lock bar, store in the toolbox 80. Install the cover 74 with the 2 bolts 73 with the remote control box 72. Warning: use the extreme caution in handling the heavy parts provided with adequate support. Using the assistant during the procedure failure to follow the warning may result with the injury personnel. Remove the control box weighing 68 pounds. With the assistant, remove the remote control box 72 from the rear frame. Install the top of the frame. Disassembly. Install 2 bolts, 70 of the nuts, 71 with the remote control box, 72. Install the 2 straps, item 20 on the remote control box for the hose and cable to store the articulation cylinder pin for the pump, driver shaft, guard, screw jack, tools, jumpers, and all other loose parts of the toolbox in the front frame. To secure the toolbox lid. For the toolbox inventory list, ensure all the parts are accounted for. 85. Cover the pivot bin boards with the plastic other material to prevent foreign material from the accumulation of the machine surface. Secure the covering with tape. Driving the rear of the frame. Warning. Where hearing the protection from the operating with the rear section with a greater failure to follow the warning may result with a hearing. The remote the control operators can accomplish one person using the upground gate to aid supporting with the alignment with the frame of the assembly. The backup alarm should sound with the transmission direction the cover in place reverse. Turn the battery disconnection switch on. Move the throttle to the low idle position. Move the start button to start the engine to either start the aid by required cool weather conditions. Show the engine either starting aid of the engine start button battery disconnection. Driving the rear frame of the continued. Warning, stop until immediately low air indicate that the light illuminates determine the source of the probable connecting before continuing operation. Low air light will come on monetarily after starting the engine. Never shift the engine higher than first gear. Extremely caution when operating with a remote control. Be ready at all times to release the steering control button. Pull the emergency brake. Continuously dangerous situation could occur. Failure to follow these warnings may result in injury to personal damage of the machine. Shift the parking brake of the differential lock, the surface brake control, the steering control, the clutch rod and control, the forward reverse control, the gear selection control, and low air pressure indicator. Moving the machine. Warning. Gear selection control has all 6 gears available, though only the first gear failure to follow the warning may result in the injury of personnel damage to the machine. Shift the transmission to the first gear, move the transmission direction control location, move the differential lock and the switch off. Turn the parking emergency brake out the pushing on the control box, remove the serving of the brake, pressure the button on the steering control, move the button is pressed. No, it is not necessary to press the button on the clutch control will engage the clutch, but its own button is only used with the connecting clutch cable to the engine is off. F. Engine clutch gradually by rotating the clutch control with the right stop addition with the clutch engagement with the engine starts to lug. Caution not steer with the differential lock of the switch in the on position and necessary to turn on the differential lock switch. Driving the rear frame will continue. Note the direction of the left and right position will relate with the direction of the travel. When the move of the machine forward direction, pulling the steering control toward the machine toward the left, pushing the steering away from the turning away for the machine right to the turn. When moving the machine with the reverse of the steering control, reverse them holding the steering control with the toward the machine to the right of the turn with the steering control away from the view, with turning the machine way left turn. No additional clutch engagement may be equipped with sliding the wheels, move the turning depending on the ground conditions. Or to stop the machine, apply surface brake with the release button. The steering control carefully design and disengage the clutch by rotating the clutch control by the left and turn the parking emergency brake. Pull out the parking brake control. Shift the transmission to neutral plate, pulling the gear selection control and the fully out. Shut down the engine, parade the throttle up to no fuel position. Turn off the battery, disconnect the switch. Assembly must be performed on the firm level surface. This will also sectionalize the component for the tools are located in the toolbox from front section of the machine. The pivot pins and bolts of the clamps are installed with the frame section. Move the plastic covering pivot from the machine. Remove the 2 nuts 78 with the bolt 71 with the remote control box 72. Remove the warning. The extreme caution with the handling of the heavy parts provided adequate support for the use of the assistance to perceive the failure to follow the warning may result in injury to personnel. Note the remote control box weighs 68 pounds. With my assistance, remove the remote control box from the machine. Install the remote control box 72 with the brake near the left-hand battery box. Remove the 2 bolts 73 and 74 for the remote control box. 72. Remove the dust cover with the cable to the hose to connect the hose 76 and wire harness 75 to the machine. Note the control levers may be adjusted to make the cable connection if necessary. Cable extraction tool with the item 9 the table with the extraction cable to connect the remote control cable to the remote corresponding machine table to use the tag during the removal. Alright, assembly continued. Ensure the emergency and brakes and shift the transmission neutral to disengage the clutch, the drive at the rear of the frame of the work package, start the engine, move the rear frame within 3 foot of the front frame, align with the articulation joint with its close with the possible shear of the drive rear frame and the working package. Disengage the clutch of this set up the parking to make an emergency brake with a showdown. The engine shift the transmission to the neutral position. The 2 screw jack for the over the mounting hole to each up the rear of the frame of the tandem housing. Install the 2 pin for the 64 spring claps 65 with the 2 mounting holes on the screw jack 63. Adjust the screw jack 63 as needed for the remove of the tandem links. Remove the 2 bolts 79 washer 80 with the cap 81 for each of the tandem link. Move the 2 tandem link for the frame with the store with the link for the toolbox. Remove the 2 bolts from the washer 79 with the washer 80 with the cap 81 with the tandem link mount. Remove the straps, item 28 and table 1 with the secure with the articulation cable, the cylinders and cable and hoses. Remove the straps, item 19, table 1. Secure the lower pivot positions. Pull the articulation cylinder away from the frame. Install the lock bar, 2 bolts, and pull pump shaft the yoke on the other section. Remove the 4 bolts on 10 with the washers, 11 with the upper pivot pin, 9 with the front section. Remove the 6 bolts, 25 for 10 and 20, 56 bolts, 68 washers, 69 with the lower pivot pin from the rear section. Connect the jumper hose 58 with the auxiliary supply hose 27 on the left side of the machine. Connect the other jumper hose with the auxiliary pump supply connector 57. Connect the jumper hose with the auxiliary pump return hose on the right side of the machine. Connect the other end of the jumper hose and the hose connector 59. Connect the electrical harness between the engine connector 62 and the platform 61. Assembly continued. Keep all the personnel away from the machine when the rear section is moving while adjusting the blade failure to the valve with the warning may cover the injury to death and personnel. Precaution. Do not allow the auxiliary pump for more than 30 seconds to allow the pump to cool for 1 minute between each use. Turn on the battery switch to start switch and start the engine. Drive the rear switch section very slowly toward the front of the frame. Do not steer with the proper position relative to the frame with the control lever. Hold the appropriate blade lever with the desired position. Auxiliary pump to align with the pivot pin. Shift the transmission neutral pin and shut down the engine. If required, adjust the screwing length of the useful blade control level of the auxiliary pump, switching the line with the pump pin. Apply the grease pivot pin for the pivot pin board carefully install the lower pivot pin 26. Install the 69 6 washer 69 block 68 on the top lower pivot. The lower gradually tighten the bolts with the diagonal pattern tightening 75 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, note, during the retainer installation, piston of the two bolts hold they align the shim, then install the retainer shim with the 6-bolt bolt bottom of the lower pivot pin with gradually tighten the bolts in diagonal pattern. Install the caps 24 to 3 washer 23 bolt 22 for the bottom of the lower pivot 26 to tighten the bolts to 100 foot-pounds of torque. If required, adjust the screws and the jacks to the top of the pivot pin and hole alignment. Note, to hold the side of the pivot pin must face the machine with the mounting with the pump drive with the shaft guard grease fitting of the must face the right side. Install the upper pivot pin 9 with the 4 washers to 11 and bolts of the 10 with the gradually tighten the bolts in the diagonal part and tighten the 75 foot-pounds of torque. Turn the battery disconnect switch off. Remove the engineering drive yoke guard with the rear wall store in the toolbox. Remove the tool bolts, power, pump the drive shaft lock bar from the yoke store, lock bar in the front toolbox. Assembly continued. Warning: wear eye protection with the when of the connecting proper pressurized hose. Failure to follow the wearing warning may cause injury to the personnel. Disconnect the two hydraulic jumper hose of the electrical jump harness. Install the protective cap store housing electrical harness in the toolbox. 2 different thread types of the different hose drive shaft with the core thread bolts used in the engine side of the drive shaft. Find thread the bolts are on the bottom shaft of the drive shaft. Install the pump drive shaft. Then joint assembly. Install the 4 bolts on the both ends of the drive shaft. Tighten to 40 pounds of torque. Install the 2 pump drive shaft with gear guards 3 and 4 washer 5 bolts 4 3 washer 2 and bolts 1. Assembly continued. Disconnect the remote control hose, the 76 electrical connector 75 cable to the remote control box 72. Install the dust covers on all the connections. Install the cover 74 with the 2 bolts 73 on the remote control box. Warning: extremely cautious from the handling and have to be provided with adequate support. This isn't the procedure failing may result in injury to personnel. Note, remote control box weighs 68 pounds. When assisting the remote control box from the 72 from the rear of the frame, install the top of the front of the frame. Install the 2 bolts 71 and 70 for the remote control. Install the 2 straps at item 20 with the table 1 on the remote control box hose and cables. Assembly: remove the 2 spring caps and clips 65 and 64 spring of the jack of the 63 each over the rear of the frame with the store in the toolbox. Install articulation indicator connection rods 154 with the 2 pins 53 with the new cotter pins 55 with both articulation indicator rods 54. Alright, assembly continued. Wear eye protection with the pressurized hose with the failure to follow the warning may cause injury to personnel. Note that if the trouble experienced the temp, the circulation cylinder hose will relieve the pressure from the end of the hose. Relieve pressure slightly, loosen the fittings on the rear of the check valve, tighten all the fittings and the correct connect hose to connect levers may adjust the make cable connection necessary. May use the cable extractor tool item 9 in the table 1 to extend the cable to connect the articulation cylinder hose and the 51 articulation cylinder 2 52 on both sides of the machine. Move the cap of the makes of the connection, connect with the caps together within use the V, the hose with the platform support frame, connect the air hose 30 and 31, and with the hydraulic hose 27 to 28 and 29 on the left side of the machine. Connect the clutch cable to 42 for the left side of the machine. Remove the caps to make the connections, connect the caps together when not in use. Feed the hose between the platform support frame, connect the air hoses 35, 35, 33, 35, 39, hydraulic hose 32 on the right side of the machine. You can connect the throttle cable 39 with behind the right tandem housing. Connect the two transmission cables 41 and 41 on the right side of the machine. Move the bolt washer 40. Remove the bolt 46 washer 47 the clamp 48 with the right side of the machine. Install the clamp 48 and washer 47 the bolt 46 on the control cables below the operator compartment. Connect the electrical harness 43, 44, and 45 on the right side of the machine. 63. Install the clamp washer, clamp 38, washers 37, and that's 36 on the inside of the machine. Rotate the electrical harness 63 for the rear of the machine, connecting the rear harness connector. Alright, to battery, disconnect the switch and start and engage with line articulation cylinder eyes with the holes in the frame, and then install the cylinder pan within each side of the machine, and shut down the engine. Install the two cap washers, 14 washers, 16 nuts, 15 washers, 13 bolt 12 on the left cylinder. Install the two retaining caps, 20 and 4 washers, 19 bolts, 18 on the right cylinder, articulation cylinder. Store all tools and jump to other equipment and toolbox at the front of the machine. Secure the lid. The warning: the ROPS must be installed before operating. With a greater failure to follow the warning may result in injury to personnel. Notify the unit maintenance to install the ROPS to return the support to the front of the machine. After approximately 1 hour of operation, affect the pivot pins and tighten if necessary. End of the work package. All right, Chapter 5: Supporting information.